know where you at and who you rocking with, right? So let's get to it. Richard Porter Jr., whose real name is Donnell, likely in tribute to his uncle, was kidnapped and held for ransom by the preacher crew and Richard Jr.'s great uncle Apple in an attempt to extort money from his father. Last sat down with Viral Hip Hop News, where he discussed his upbringing, his circle, and being handed a life sentence at the age of 16. But before we get into all of that, let's take a look at his father's legacy as well as the illegal empire he built in 1980s Harlem. You heard? Richard Porter was a well-known drug dealer that rose to prominence in the 80s Harlem. Born July 26, 1965 and raised in Harlem, New York, along with his two younger siblings, Richard would start selling drugs at the tender age of 12, quickly learning the game and generating large sums of money in the process. Widely regarded as a mid-level dealer who police said sold $50,000 worth of crack per week and known for working with other dealers like AZ, Alpo, and Fritz, he was rumored to have never worn the same pair of clothes twice and have had over a dozen luxury cars at one point. In '89, Richard's little brother was kidnapped and ransomed for $500K. The amount was never paid and he was later found deceased, just 3 weeks after Richard was found himself. Alright. Tragically, on January 3rd, 1990, Richard Porter was shot and killed by his former business associate, Alpo Martinez. His body was found the following day with a large amount of money in his pocket. In 2002, Richard Porter would be further immortalized by Mekhi Phifer's iconic portrayal of him in the movie that has since become a cult classic, Paid in Full.
A nigga like me, man, I love the game. I love the hustle, man. Be feeling like one of them ball-playing niggas, you know, like Bird or Magic or something. Yeah, you know, a nigga got dough. A nigga could leave the league. But if I leave, the fans still gonna love me, man.
Raised by a single mother, with 2 brothers, 3 sisters, and 2 on his father's side, Richard Porter Jr. describes his childhood as pleasant, with the principles and values his mother instilled in him still holding true to this day. He also refers to himself as a product of his own poor choices and reflects on what he learned in prison. Let's take a look at that.
Just to give it to you briefly, a brief synopsis, right? I learned being incarcerated that I was a product of poor choices, right? I was a carbon copy of what I saw, what I've experienced, and what my environment taught me. Which I see in most societies, that we become carbon copies. We dress alike, we look alike, we act alike, we respond alike. You know, the average young adult coming from an impoverished environment, they're in jail by 16, 17, 18. They very rarely graduate. You know what I'm saying? I was just one of those kids that was influenced by what I seen before me. And I made those poor choices, but the difference is when I went to jail, I was able to see myself and separate myself from the rest of the individuals that I was a part of. And that was like my greatest lesson learned.
Now, later on in the broadcast, Richard Porter Jr. reflects on transitioning from prison to home, controlling his environment, and making more money legally versus the other way around. Check it out.
Went and got a job because guess what, man? I make more money working a 9 to 5 than I was hustling. You know what I'm saying? And I made a great deal of money hustling, but working a 9 to 5, I didn't have to look over my shoulder. Yeah, I had to pay taxes. Yeah, you know, I had to be, frugal with my cash and be mindful of it, but that's the world of being an adult. You know what I'm saying? Paying taxes, being frugal with your money, knowing what to spend your money on. And I'm here today to tell about it, man.
Richard Porter Jr. will go on to speak about the recidivism rate and being handed a life sentence, as well as his mindset if given the opportunity to be set free, saying how he'd never been to the beach prior to his conviction and would like to do so if released. And that's crazy because that's one of the small freedoms that people take for granted every day. He later revealed that when he was arrested, New York was under a mandatory drug law and the amount that he was arrested with would earn him a life sentence.
Back then, it was the drug laws that if you get caught with a certain amount of drugs, it's automatic life sentence. So, with that being said, the legal system is a messed up system. Their guidelines were, unconstitutional. But I'm not complaining about the system because, like my mother taught me, you put yourself in that situation. So that system is, at this present moment as a man, I don't care about the legal system. Because I'm not putting myself in a situation where that legal system is an issue for me. You know what I'm saying? That's not a problem for me no more. But back then it was a problem because I put myself there.
All right, in closing, this is my closing verse. Look, I was very, very much impressed by the level of texture this interview provided. There's very intelligent conversation from very intelligent people. And at the end of the day, Richard Porter Jr. has a very unique story all in itself without the accolades of his father added on to it. You can see both the principles and values his mother instilled in him, as well as the ambitious spirit and streetwise mentality of his father in his presence and delivery. Just like his father, he begun hustling at the age of 12, but being handed a life sentence and serving 12 years off it served as a wake-up call, and he never looked back. Earning a bachelor's degree, traveling the world, maintaining gainful employment, and most important of all, staying free. I respect it, and so should you. Click the link and get hip, man.